Tomorrow, Vermont's Governor Peter Shumlin is expected to sign a bill mandating labeling of genetically modified foods. That would make Vermont the first state in the nation to do so, but it's not the first to try.
Several other states are working on plans to require GMO labels. However, major food manufacturers are concerned the labels will draw negative attention. Our Dr. David Agus is in Los Angeles. Good morning, Dr. David Agus.
Good morning, Nora.
Let's first talk about what are GMOs, genetically modified food, essentially.
We've been modifying food or selecting out food for hundreds of years. Farmers would get the tomatoes that taste the best, the ones that were able to be as red as they want, the apples that were the best. But in the 1970s came about the technology to insert a gene and to change a characteristic. It's predominantly used so they can avoid bugs or make their own pesticide and be able to tolerate the herbicide or the chemicals we use. And it really had rapid adoption over the last 15 years. Most of the soy, the cotton, and the corn that we use today is genetically modified. About 70% of the products on food shelves that are processed use GMO foods.
So what's wrong with labeling that?
Nothing. I mean, it is our right in this country to know what we eat. It is our right in this country to know how our food has been made. And so I can't see a real problem with labeling. That being said, GMO foods, there's no data that it's harmful. And we really need to put the impetus on educating people, not on hiding it, but on educating people about what it can do. You know, with global climate change, as you just mentioned, happening, you can't move the wheat fields of Nebraska to New York City. It's just not going to happen. So we have to use science to do things right. But labeling is an inherent part of it, and we have to be transparent with the science.
But most people think, though, Dr. Agus, if you're labeling that it means caution or there's something bad that you need to be aware of. You're clearly saying that's not the case. So why are food companies opposed to labeling?
Well, 64 countries in the world have labeling. In Europe, when they started labeling, nobody would use the food. And so the impetus, again, needs to be on the education side. Companies are afraid that if they don't use GMO food, they're not going to get a reproducible crop every year. If bugs come in, they can't get all the corn they needed to make their product. So we need to do science right, but we need to be transparent and honest about how we do it and bring in technologies to show if it is safe. You know, there's no data it's not safe, but I don't think we've conclusively shown that it is safe. Crops have been optimized for calories per acre, not about health. And so we need to think about both parameters as we go forward. This field is dominated by a few very large companies. It needs to be dominated by science.
There seems to be much more concern in Europe than in the United States.
No question about it. In Europe, there have been riots about it. You know, people protesting the use of GMO foods. They're threatening to burn fields. Well, we need to bring reason and not give up on science, but use it for good.
Thank you, Dr. David Agus.